Today, we continue to look at the book of Esther. Last week, Esther became queen of the Persian Empire, but she hid her identity that she was a member of the Jewish people. Esther was an orphan adopted by her cousin Mordecai, and the reading we're looking at today really focuses more on Mordecai than on Esther. And Mordecai probably was also concealing his identity as a Jew, as a member of God's people. And actually, at the beginning of the story, it seems like things are going very well for Mordecai. He's an official in the Persian court. He helps foil an assassination plot against the king. But then we're introduced to the villain in the story. Haman, the Agagite, was a descendant of King Agag, who had been an enemy of the Jewish people, of God's people. And he hatches a plan to destroy all the Jews in the Persian Empire. So we'll take a look at this section of the book of Esther. We begin with chapter 2, verse 19, and we'll go all the way to chapter 3, verse 15. So chapter 2, verse 19 reads, "When the virgins were assembled a second time, Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate. But Esther had kept secret her family background and nationality, just as Mordecai had told her to do. For she continued to follow Mordecai's instructions, as she had done when he was bringing her up. During the time Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate, Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's officers who guarded the doorway, became angry and conspired to assassinate King Xerxes. But Mordecai found out about the plot and told Queen Esther, who in turn reported it to the king, giving credit to Mordecai. And when the report was investigated and found to be true, the two officials were impaled on poles. All this was recorded in the book of the annals in the presence of the king. After these events, King Xerxes honored Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, elevating him and giving him a seat of honor higher than that of all the other nobles. All the royal officials at the king's gate knelt down and paid honor to Haman, for the king had commanded this concerning him. But Mordecai would not kneel down or pay him honor. Then the royal officials at the king's gate asked Mordecai, "Why do you disobey the king's command?" Day after day they spoke to him, but he refused to comply. Therefore they told Haman about it, to see whether Mordecai's behavior would be tolerated. For he had told them he was a Jew. When Haman saw that Mordecai would not kneel down or pay him honor, he was enraged. Yet having learned who Mordecai's people were, he scorned the idea of killing only Mordecai. Instead, Haman looked for a way to destroy all Mordecai's people, the Jews, throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes. In the 12th year of King Xerxes, in the first month, the month of Nisan, the pur, that is the lot, was cast in the presence of Haman to select a day and month. And the lot fell on the 12th month, the month of Adar. Then Haman said to King Xerxes, "There is a certain people, dispersed among the peoples, in all the provinces of your kingdom, who keep themselves separate. Their customs are different from all other people, and they do not obey the king's laws. It is not in the king's best interest to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let a decree be issued to destroy them, and I will give 10,000 talents of silver to the king's administrators for the royal treasury." So the king took his signet ring from his finger and gave it to Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. "Keep the money," the king said to Haman, "and do with the people as you please." Then on the 13th day of the first month, the royal secretaries were summoned. They wrote out in the script of each province and in the language of each people all Haman's orders to the king's satraps, the governors of the various provinces, and the nobles of the various peoples. They were written in the name of King Xerxes himself and sealed with his own ring. Dispatches were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces with the order to destroy, kill, and annihilate all the Jews, young and old, women and children, on a single day, the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. A copy of the text of the edict was to be issued as law in every province and made known to the people of every nationality so they would be ready for that day. The couriers went out, spurred by the king's command, and the edict was issued in the citadel of Susa. The king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susa was bewildered. And this is God's word for us today. And before my message, I ask that you would please pray with me. Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of each one of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. And this sermon will be told from the perspective of one of the people from the story. Lord God of my ancestors, forgive me, for I thought I could live the rest of my life with one foot in the faith of my ancestors and the other foot in the world of the empire in which I serve. I thought among my family at home I could remember the stories of our ancestors, how you saved us from slavery and death in Egypt, how you led us to a land of our own, how it was from our own tribe of Benjamin that you chose the first king of Israel, who defeated the Amalekites and their king Agag. At home, we often remember the story of how my great-grandfather was exiled from the land of Judah, how he saw the temple destroyed, and how, until the end of his life, he yearned to go back to his homeland. But I've learned to forget all of these stories when I come out of my house to serve the king, so I can just be another official at court, another subject of the vast empire, another person trying to navigate the ignorant, impulsive, and vain King Xerxes. I never let anyone at court know I was one of your people. I knew there were those at court who hated us, and I did not want to jeopardize my position. I thought I could be a Jew at home and a Gentile at court, that I could celebrate Passover at home, but never utter your name when I stepped out from my doorposts. I thought I could remember where I came from at home, but hide who I really was from the world. I suppose if I wanted to, I could blame my father and my grandfather for this. For when the Babylonians were overthrown and the Persians gave us a chance to return to our homeland, the land that my great-grandfather had missed until the day that he died, my father and my grandfather instead decided to stay put. Judah, after all, had never been their homeland. They had never lived there. And they saw opportunities for success in the government of our new Persian masters. Their plan was to be Jews in private, but not in public, and make the most of where we were, to the point that my father gave me a name inspired by the god Marduk, to make it seem like we were just another Gentile family in the vast empire. My grandfather, he found mild success at the Persian court. My father, he saw even greater success. And my whole life has been spent trying to reach the highest position I possibly can in Persia. And I rose through the ranks. And it seemed that I would indeed reach the top, just below the king. As my cousin Esther, whom I raised as my own child, became the queen. And I uncovered a plot to kill the king. And through Esther, I relayed a warning to the king, saving the king's life. I thought he would honor me by making me second only to him in the empire. However, to my shock, he instead gave this honor to Haman. Haman, who, as you know, Lord, is a wicked, conniving, and vile man, full of ambition, and willing to destroy anyone who stands in his way or slights him. He is much like his ancestor, King Agag, who tried and failed to wipe out our people. And now this descendant of Agag has come back to haunt me and seized a position that I thought should have been mine. And then he convinced the king, he's very good at doing that, to sign an edict that everyone must bow all the way to the ground to Haman as he walked by. And I knew the right thing to do in order to preserve my position, and perhaps my life, was to bow down to this man, to lay aside my jealousy and loathing, and bow all the way to the ground, my face level with the dirt, so that the dust would fill my nostrils. I resolved to do this degrading act, to bow to this despicable man. I knew it was the only way to keep myself secure. But when the time came to do it, when I saw Haman strutting down the street, surrounded by pomp and filled with pride, and I saw he was wearing this beautiful flowing robe covered with images of all the gods of the Persians, I simply could not bow down. The commandments my mother had taught me, they rung in my ears. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven, above, or on the earth below, or in the waters beneath. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. You know full well, Lord, how I have not been devout in keeping all of your commandments. I eat whatever is before me, with no concern about whether it is lawful to eat or not. I have not loved you with my whole heart and mind and strength. I have been full of ambition. I've coveted the wealth and position of many people. You know how I have not been faithful in prayer. Aside from the times that we celebrate Passover or Pentecost or other festivals. You know how I have hid the fact that I am even a member of your people from so many others. And how I encouraged Esther, whom I raised, to do the same thing. Yet just as when Esther was an orphan, and I could not forget how my mother had told me time and again that God calls us to care for the widow and the orphan. This is what God's people do, she said. And remembering this led me to raise Esther as my own daughter. When Haman walked before me. Likewise, I could not forget how my mother had taught me that as God's people, we bow down only to the God who led us out of Egypt. We don't bow down to any idols or images or fools who think that they are owed respect that properly belongs only to God. And as Haman strutted out before me, and as all around me bowed down, all the way to the ground, I could not stop thinking about those first 2 commandments that my mother had taught me. Eating the wrong thing, well, that was one thing. but violating the two most basic tenets that made us God's people, and instead bowing down to that which was not God. I just could not do it. I did not bow down. Haman, though, was so caught up in himself that he didn't notice, but the other officials around me did. They asked me why I did not bow down as the king had ordered. My mind was racing, and I thought, now the time has come for me to decide if I was a Jew or not. I had a choice to make, because I could no longer claim to be a Jew and a member of God's people if I went about denying what was most basic about being a Jew. I could say to those officials, well, this is my mistake. It won't happen again. The next time I will be sure to bow down to Haman. But truly, if I did that, I would be a Jew no longer. On the other hand, I could tell them that I will not bow down to Haman, because I am a Jew who only bows down to the one true God. And I might not have my position anymore. I might lose my life. In any case, it was clear to me that I could no longer go on trying to be both Jew and Gentile at the same time. The time had come for me to choose which I would be, who I would be. Would I sell my birthright for success and shed even the most basic act of faithfulness to our God, to the God who has rescued our people time and time again? Or would I say, thus far, but no further? I have compromised too much. I've denied who I am for too long. This is now the moment of crisis, when I must decide and say, yes, I am a Jew. Yes, I am a member of God's people. Yes, I worship the one and true God, and Him alone. I decided to take the latter course. For to continue to deny that I was a Jew would certainly mean, even though it might save my life, that I would no longer be Mordecai anymore, but rather someone who used to be Mordecai the Jew. And it would be like I would have to live my life as if my mother, my great-grandfather, all of our faithful ancestors never existed. As if the God who created me, and from whom salvation for my people arose time and time again, did not exist. So I told the officials I was a Jew, and I cannot bow down to one who is not God. Certainly not to one who walks around with images of idols all over him. They were shocked by my confession. And when they finally came around to speaking, they said that for my sake, they hoped I would change my mind. And from that day forward, every time Haman walked by, it seemed like I became the object of everyone's attention, even more so than Haman. Everyone wondered if I would give in and bow down, but I would not. Despite the pressure from others to do so, I did not bow down. And eventually the other officials told Haman about my refusal. And Haman noticed. He was able to take his gaze away from himself for a moment to notice that I was the only one who didn't have his face bowed down to the ground. And after this I was prepared to lose my position, even my life. But nothing could have prepared me for the edict that was issued from the citadel of Susa. That all Jews, everywhere in the empire, even in Jerusalem, could be killed and their goods plundered when the month of Adar came around. I never thought that even Haman would be this ruthless, or the king so clueless as to allow this edict. Thank you, Lord, that at least this edict will not take effect for almost a year. And I thank you, God, that though this edict has cast a great shroud over our Passover celebrations, that we have this festival to remind us of how in the past you saved us from murderous tyranny. And I pray that in spite of our sins, you will do so again in the future. I pray that in spite of the fact that it has been far too long since I have last come to you in prayer like this, that you would help me to be more faithful to you, and help me to faithfully do whatever you are calling me to do in such a time as this. Help me to no longer be a part-time Jew, but help me to stand firm in my decision to be one of your people, both in private and in public. And help me, Lord, to convince Esther to do the same. I am so sorry that I told her to hide the fact from others that she is one of your people. Help me, Lord, to find the words to remind her that she is indeed one of your people. And as with me, the time has come for her to choose if she will continue to simply think of her own position or choose to be on the side of your salvation. Your salvation which came at Passover. And your salvation which we hope will come again in such a time as this. Lord, save us from this present crisis, from this evil, just as you saved us from the evil of Pharaoh long ago. Help me to stand firm by my decision to be one of your people in public as well as in private. And help Esther to also make the decision to choose not to focus on only her own position, but to focus on her people and to be on the side of your salvation. Help all of your people to stand on the side of your salvation. And may the stories of your victories in the past ever be with us. And may the hope that you will deliver us again in the future be with us as well. And we pray for all this in your mighty and holy name. Amen.